before we meet, Paolo, I'll just explain what the Aquaponics LAB is and how I met him. Paolo set up an aquaponics meet-up in a local city to me. I turned up one time, and it turns out that we're working on a lot of the same stuff, pretty much 30 miles from each other without actually sharing any information. So now we meet up weekly and we work on the films together. So he's going to introduce himself now, but there is a lot of stuff which we've worked on already, and we're just catching up with the blogs now to release the information because we like to test it before we release it.
So in here we have an ebb and flow system. It is a 10-meter length grow bed, and one of the first problems that we faced when we were initially trying to control the cycle is because of the length of the grow bed, using standard auto siphons, which is the standard in the industry nowadays, was quite complex, as the flow of the water would take very long to come from the very end of the grow bed where we have the water inlet and to go all the way into the tank connector that is in here. Was very hard to fine-tune the ebb and flow mechanism. So then we set the challenge to build a low-cost valve that could do the job. So after a few iterations, a few good times, just trying to use party balloons to actuate the system inside 50mm pipe, we got into a very functional system. So what we do is we divert a little bit of the pressure from the air pumps that aerate our system, like in here, and we use the pressure to collapse a bike inner tube. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it clearly in this image, but you can see some of the tutorials and how to build it, and it's going to be very clear. So then we use compressor to compress this chamber, make the bike inner tube collapses, and this stops the flow of the water. If we then release the air pressure, you're going to notice that the water is going to return to the tank. If we put pressure again, the water will stop. So this was one of the major developments, was one of the major first developments we did. So with 50 pounds we were able to build an equivalent of a 200, 350, 400 pounds valve, electronic actuated valve, that of course is not going to have the same specs in terms of pressure, but will do the job very well. The system in here is growing tilapia, so we have around 90 fish growing into 3 different compartments that we just did by a little bit of division. So we just use some PVC tubing and some standard netting just to do few tank divisions, because it is good to have fishing of different stages growing into your aquaponic system, because this way you can balance the amount of fish feed you put in the system on a daily basis. In terms of lighting, we have T5 lighting in here, we have LED, and we have metal halides. And lately we have been playing a little bit into expanding the system. So we installed towers in here, zip grow towers. So you can notice that at the moment plants are not growing very well, because as we are in England at this time of the year, there's not enough light. So you can see how all leaves are quite elongated because they are trying to reach light at some extent. But you can see that in the grow bed, plants are looking very healthy because we have the needed amount of light to sustain proper growth. We have a little bit of an NTF system in here, so we have watercress growing. Watercress is always a good combination into aquaponics because it is a plant that is aquatic, by standards.